Morning, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend, and congratulations for treating your business like a business and actually working on a President's Day instead of taking it off, so congrats for that. So this is a time for you to tell us if you have any questions, problems, things going well, things going poorly. Again, everybody will benefit from anything that is either going well or poorly, and we can discuss that and get it fixed not only for you but for everybody. So as we go through some of these things I want to talk about, make sure you type in if you've got those questions or concerns. And also remember, I was talking about last week, if anybody ever wants to be on these calls and be on live rather than typing things in, just choose the telephone and call in that way, and we'd love to have you on board for doing that. So I'm going to get started, and then type in any questions or raise your hand, and if you want to get your line opened up to discuss those things. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is a couple updates on TRIP. The TRIP training videos are now up. So I've got an hour-long video of me going through the TRIP presentation from the very beginning and how you introduce it to a client, all the way to taking the application for the insurance. So everything from the first to the end, and role-playing it with the client and exactly what you would say. And then Missy has been nice enough to actually turn that into a transcript of actually what I'm saying there. So you do not need to learn this word for word, guys. You do not need to learn it word for word, but if you just watch the video and get an idea of how you introduce those things and turn it into a conversation, that's what you want to do. But if you want to look at word for word, we do have that transcript, and then we also have, I put together an outline, which is really what would be much better for you to use on how you would introduce everything and take you all the way through the presentation. So that is now up. Both of those things are up, the training video and the scripts and outlines for you to learn the TRIP presentation. So, and I want to stress a couple of things about the TRIP. The TRIP protects against healthcare costs. So how much, let's see how many people know this. So, and here's the importance of why we do TRIP the way we do. First of all, do we use cash value for TRIP? Is this a cash value sale, guys? Do we try to sell a policy that, so we got Dale saying no, yep, you're right, nope. Casey says no, okay, great, you guys get this. The TRIP is not a cash value sale, because first of all, as we talked about last week, cash value, if you're going to use insurance with cash value, it takes 15 to 20 years for it to build up to any type of value anyways. And when do people want results? Now or 10, 15, or 20 years from now? They want results now. So we don't. The TRIP is not a sale for cash value, and I want to just stress another reason why that's the case. How much of cash value of life insurance is protected in case of long-term care? How much of that cash value is protected against having to be spent before Medicaid kicks in? Before Medicaid kicks in. Anybody know? So let's say you've done a great job with this cash value of life insurance policy and it's built up to $50,000 of cash value. How much of that's going to have to be spent down, or how much is protected? Casey says none. Well, it's close to none. Almost all of it, Bill, yeah. It's $1,500. That's all you can protect. So of that $50,000, you're going to have to spend all of it down to $1,500. So what good did that do you in case of long-term care? None. It did no protection. And then the second health issue I want to talk about with TRIP is this. How much is a person likely to spend for medical costs above Medicare? Does Medicare cover everything, guys? And you'll see in the training video, I actually stressed this in the boat trip, the fact that Medicare doesn't cover all this stuff. So does Medicare cover all medical? Okay, Bill's saying no with capital letters. You're exactly right. In fact, Mount Sinai School of Medicine found that the average person spends $39,000 the last 5 years before their death above and beyond what Medicare covers. And that's not for long-term care. That's other than long-term care. So with how many people want to, if the average person is spending $39,000 above Medicare, will that put a dent more of a dent than anybody would want in their personal finances? Even people with a lot of money, do they want to spend 40 grand out of pocket on medicine? No. So does TRIP help them? Now, just think about somebody who only has $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 of assets. Now, how much that $39,000 is going to put a dent in their assets? But even somebody with $1 million, do they want to even spend 40 grand above and beyond, out of pocket, above and beyond Medicare? No. And then if they need long-term care, the average person who needs long-term care will spend $66,000 per person if they needed long-term care above and beyond. So this is not talking about the housing care. This is above and beyond. This is medical costs, which makes sense because they're going to be more ill and need more medical attention. So between $40,000 and $66,000 is what the average person will spend above and beyond what Medicare covers, and that's not including the long-term care housing costs, which we all know is above $70,000 a year. So do you see why TRIP can help people? And virtually guaranteed, when the average person is spending $40,000, it virtually guarantees they're going to help people protect their retirement lifestyle. Because even if you spend $40,000 for that person who's ill, the person who's healthy, they're sweating it because they don't know how long, how much more they're going to have to spend. So does that make sense and give you more ammunition to use with the TRIP? So I'm going to give you a little hints on this. Let's see. Do you have to qualify for 2 of the 7 ADLs to access the cash? That depends on the policy, Dale. So, but remember with the TRIP, does the TRIP work even if you don't put the long-term care rider on it, guys? Does the TRIP work even if you don't put the long-term care rider on the policy? Let's see if you guys get this. Yep, Casey says. Yes, Bill says. Yes, it works because here's the thing. If you, let's say you don't have the long-term care protection on it, what do you know is going to happen? Eventually that person's going to pass, and all the money you spent out of your account is going to, what's going to happen to that? Well, it's going to be replenished because at their death, the TRIP policy pays out and replenishes all of the money that was spent. So you can put the long-term care rider on the policy, or you don't have to put the long-term care rider on the policy. And it's going to work either way. Does everybody get that? Any questions on that? But as far as, Dale, what he's asking, what's the necessary ADLs to access that if you do happen to have a long-term care rider, that's going to vary from policy to policy, and you just have to ask your marketer on exactly how that policy works. But again, you don't need that long-term care rider for the TRIP to work. Make sense to everybody? Okay. Any questions before I move on? Because we're going to move to a different topic. Okay. I'm going to talk about the power of attorney and all the things that can be wrong with the power of attorney. And the reason I want you to understand this is because the power of attorney is all roads start at the power of attorney. And what I mean by that is no matter how that client ends up in your office, no matter how that client ends up in your office, you can use the power of attorney to turn it into the 5Q process conversation. You can use the power of attorney to turn it into a conversation about not just why they're there, but about the fact that you need to go through all the things we cover in the disclosure meeting. Do you get that? Because I get a lot of people say, well, you know, I got a referral. How do I change the system? Or I got a guy worth $2 million. How do I change the system? Or I got a guy from Social Security seminar. How do I change the system? What do I always tell you guys? How do you change the system? Let's see if we get some answers in this. No matter how they come into your office, how do you change the system? You don't. Casey's right. You don't. Dale's right. You don't. Because the reason this system works is because when you walk them through the disclosure meeting, they'll end up hating their current situation and, more importantly, their current advisor, whether they're working with a do-it-yourself company like TD Ameritrade or an actual advisor. They're going to hate working with that entity, and they're going to move to you. And if they hate the place they're at and they hate the person they're working with or the entity they're working with, how easy is it to sell them at that point? Easy. See, people will not move. See, if instead you try to show them a better mutual fund, a better variable annuity, a better solution, you can't show people something that's better because they'll say, yeah, that's better, but you know what, I'm doing okay right now. How many times have you guys experienced that where you've shown them a better situation, where you've reduced their taxes, reduced their fees, gave them a better rate of return, and yet they say, well, I'm still doing okay where I'm doing right. No, I understand what you're saying. It looks pretty good, but I'm just going to stick where I'm at. We've all experienced that. That's why you're not making $1 million a year, because you experience that way too often. That's why I made 50 grand a year. It's when I realized that I can't show them I have something better that I started making all my money. And I've seen it over and over and over with every other advisor, that once they get that you can't show them something better and have them on a regular basis move to you. That's when you have a little switch goes on in your head and a little switch goes on in your income, and it goes straight through the roof. because once you realize you can't show them something better, but instead you have to make them dissatisfied with where they currently are at. See, the funny thing is, even if you don't have something better, if they hate the guy they're working with, what happens? What if you have offer the exact same thing that the guy they have right now has, but they don't like that guy, don't trust that guy, and it's apparent to them that he's been doing nothing but cheat, steal, and abuse them? And again, we don't say a bad word at the disclosure meeting. We don't ever say a bad word about that guy. They come to their own conclusion from the disclosure meeting. When that happens, even if you don't have something that's better, what do? They move. You get a client, and once they move, as long as what you show them is reasonable, they're going to move to where you recommend. So what we want to do is make sure everybody goes through the disclosure meeting process, and the power of attorney is an excellent way to start that conversation and get them there. As an example, if somebody comes to you from an event, we know how to handle that. You just put them right through the agreement meeting script and get them right into the disclosure meeting. But you'll notice that the power of attorney is the first place to really start to leverage the fact that their guy isn't doing the right job for them. But think about Social Security. A lot of guys with our Social Security seminar, they're having a lot of good luck with that, and they're saying, but here's the thing, how do I change the first meeting? Because they're coming in for Social Security, and they really want to know how to get that Social Security planning. First of all, guys, if they come to see you for Social Security, should you, because they've been to your Social Security event, should you just do the Social Security software for them? So let's see some answers to that. No, Casey, no. Okay, we're getting a lot of no's. Exactly, because if all you did when they came in, and I hear guys say, well, yeah, but Mike, they're coming in, all they want is this. Guys, if you just did that for them, are you performing malpractice? Yes. Why? Well, for a couple of reasons. One, well, you know what, I'm not going to discuss all the reasons. I'm just going to tie it right back to what we're talking about today is the power of attorney. If you just do the Social Security planning without doing everything, I'll just show you one example with the power of attorney that you're doing malpractice. Because had they better have an operating power of attorney if they're going to do Social Security planning? Yes. Why? Because we're asking them to delay things, right? And when we ask them to delay things, what could happen between now and when the event occurs that we need them to do something? So if we ask them to delay taking their Social Security for 3 years and they become incapacitated within those 3 years, what might they not be able to do? So they had better have what? A power of attorney so that their agent can do what they're supposed to do 3 years from now. Do you get that? And could you use that as an example? For somebody that presses you hard, and again, rarely will somebody press you hard. If you just roll them right into the process, they're not going to have a problem with this. But if they press you hard and say, why don't you just give me the Social Security information right now? You say, listen, dude, I'd love to. It'd be the easiest thing for me to do. I put in some numbers, press the button, and give it to you. But here's the thing. That's doing a disservice, because if I do that, there could be situations in the future where it could cost you. Let me give you an example. And again, I'm role-playing with this guy. Let me give you an example. What if we suggested you do something with the Social Security office that you have to do something 3 years from now? If you became incapacitated and your power of attorney didn't work appropriately, you wouldn't be able to do what you needed to do 3 years from now, and we'd be up a creek. And all the planning we did may not even put you in a better position. It may put you in a worse position. So I can't move forward until I know everything is in place for Social Security planning. So if you just want me to put some numbers together, I'll tell you what, that's dangerous for you, and I'll be honest with you, it's dangerous for me, because then I perform malpractice. So I need to make sure all these other things are appropriate. You could even say, let's take a look at your power of attorney. And after you get done today, you know that every power of attorney you look at is wrong. You'll see that every power of attorney is wrong after we get done today. So any questions on how you convert the Social Security people into the 5Q process? You see how that would work? Well, how about if you sell Medicare subs? Because we got some guys bringing in a lot of clients with Medicare subs and then turning them into 5Q clients. So think about this. With Medicare sub, all you're going to do is say what? Hey, can I take a quick look at your power of attorney to make sure that that's in order? Because we'll need that. We may need that in the future for some of the decisions we need to make with Medicare sub. And you'll look at it and say, oh my gosh, we've got some major things wrong here. Maybe we should take a look at, I mean, if the first thing that I've looked at, we've found some big problems, maybe we should take a look at more of your situation. What are they going to say at that point? If the first thing you look at, and in 5 minutes you say, wow, this is totally wrong, we're going to need to get this updated, this is not going to allow you to make the changes necessary. And, I hadn't even thought of this, but you're not even able to get your money when you need it most. So if the first thing we find in 5 minutes is wrong, and not just a little wrong, but totally wrong, do you think maybe we should take a look at more of your situation? And what are they going to say? Yeah, they want to go further, Bill. Exactly right. So that's a way to so see how powerful the power of attorney is? You can turn every conversation into a conversation of why they need to go through the 5Q process. And we need them to go through the 5Q process so they become dissatisfied with their current situation and adamant about leaving their current advisor without us saying a bad word, because that's what's going to get you a client, not showing them something better. If you just show them something better, what can they do with that information? If you show them a better mutual fund, you show them a better variable annuity, you show them a better annuity, you show them a better solution, what can they do with that solution? Go back to their guy, yeah, which is the easiest thing to do. And do these people want to do the hardest thing or the easiest thing? They want to do the easiest thing, so they take it back to the guy. But if you allow the 5Q process to take the legs out from underneath their guy, they'll never go back to their guy. So everybody has to go through the 5Q process. Does that make sense? So a referral works the same way. Anything works this way. So you need to drive them back to the 5Q process, and the power of attorney is an excellent way to do that if you're getting any pushback. So let's go through what can be wrong with the power of attorney. I could actually end the call with this one slide here. We've got lots of other things that can be wrong, but I'm going to just show you that that it's impossible. The reason I can say every power of attorney is wrong is because it's impossible to have a perfect power of attorney. It's impossible to have a perfect power of attorney, and just this one reason is why. All powers of attorney talk about gifting. And some powers of attorney say that the agent, the person who you've appointed as power of attorney, is not allowed to gift to themselves. And then, or you could say that that agent is allowed to gift to themselves. Well, either way, it's wrong. There are situations where either way it's wrong. That's why it's impossible. It's like a catch-22. You can't have a perfect power of attorney, and here's why. If you give them the gift to themselves, can that cause problems, guys? If you allow the agent to gift to themselves, can that cause problems? Even with a very good, nice agent, can that cause problems? Will some of them maybe, quote-unquote, borrow money to buy a car, meaning to pay it back, and then they just never get around to what? Paying it back. I mean, even I've seen the most a conflict of interest, Dale says, exactly right. So I've seen even the most well-intentioned agents screw up by gifting to themselves. On the other hand, what if you say, well, I'm not going to allow them to gift to themselves? Does that cause problems? Can that cause problems? What if the client goes into a long-term care facility? What should the agent be doing with their assets if the client goes into a long-term care facility? What should they be doing? Paying their bills, yeah. Protecting the assets, Casey. How? How do you protect the assets? By moving them, by gifting them. So really, do you think if they appoint their oldest son as their agent, he should gift to all the other kids except himself? So he's doing all the work, he's got all the pressure, he's got all the stress, but he's going to give the money to everybody else except for himself. Is that really fair? So he's probably going to say, well, I'm not going to, if I can't give to myself, I'm not going to give to who? Anybody. So do you see, either way, there can be a problem. If they allow the agent to give to themselves, that can be a problem. Even with the most well-meaning agents in the world, that can still cause a problem. But if they don't allow the agent to gift to themselves, that can cause a problem, and that all their money can go down the tubes, and they won't be able to protect any of it. So just this one thing says that there cannot be a power of attorney that is perfect. So then the next question is, well, Mike, what are we going to do then if there's no good power of attorney? The power of attorney is only as strong as what? The power of attorney is only as strong as what, guys? Just like a hammer. A hammer is only as strong as what? Think about this. if you gave me a hammer, and Missy can probably validate this, if you gave me a hammer, guess how good a tool that is? Yeah, the person behind it, Bill, you're exactly right. Giving me a hammer is worthless. Giving a hammer to a master craftsman, he could do unbelievable things with it. So the power of attorney is only as powerful as the person behind it, and that is you. You're going to help them walk through the landmine of making sure that power of attorney is doing what it's supposed to do. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? So there is no, just this one thing, I don't even have to look at the power of attorney, and I can say there are situations where this power of attorney is not going to work without even looking at it, because it's either going to gift or it's not going to allow gifting, and I can come up with situations on either side that shows that it's wrong. So that's why I can say every power of attorney is wrong, because there is no power of attorney that's right. I can come up with situations with any power of attorney in which that would not work, where the people would not be able to get their money when they needed it most. Does that make sense? But it's not just this thing. There's other things. Updates. All powers of attorney need to be updated. Most people get their power of attorney done once and then they never look at it again. Well, powers of attorney have to be updated at least every 3 years. I've seen them now where they have to be updated every 3 months for some institutions. So updates. So it needs to be on a regular basis revalidated. And this brings up a question. Guys, when you're doing the disclosure meeting and you're saying that you found some situations where their power of attorney will not work, and they say, well, what do you mean by that? Should you explain to them why it's not working? So everybody's saying no. Good. Exactly. No, 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 no. The disclosure meeting is to let them know they have problems, but you're not going to tell them the exact problem. If you tell them the exact problem, what can they again do with that? And advisors love to explain the exact problem because it makes them look smart. But if you explain the exact problem, what can the client do with that then? If you say, well, you know what? Your power of attorney is out of date. You need to get that re-notarized here. Yeah, go get it corrected, Jeff. And then what kind of leverage do you have, Jeff? None. So it's to let them know they have problems, but you're not going to tell them exactly what the problem is. So, well, but then aren't they going to get mad at you or whatever? You say, and if you look at the script on the disclosure meeting, how we deal with that, we say, well, you know, on a cursory review of your power of attorney, we found several ways that you won't be able to get the money when you need it most. Now, obviously, I'm going to want to go through the entire power of attorney line by line to make sure that we get them all correct, and we're going to want to find go back to your attorney to get those things corrected. So I haven't done a full review yet. I'm going to want to do that before I give you the exact analysis of what needs to be done, and we'll work with your attorney to get that done. But just in a cursory review, we've already found several ways that you won't be able to get the money when you need it most. So what have I done there? By presenting it that way, what have I said? Have I told them I'm not going to tell them what it is? Yes. Why? Because I haven't found all the problems. Just in a cursory review, just in a brief review, I've already found problems. So I need to go back and even look at it closer, and then we're going to take those back to your attorney and get those fixed. That alleviates them trying to pin me down for exactly what's wrong. Because I'm saying, well, there's no sense in me explaining what's wrong here because I've just found this one thing in a cursory review. Before we give you that, I want to look at all the things that we can find and make sure we get them all fixed at the same time. Are people going to argue with you when you do it that way? No, they never do. Been doing that for 12 years. Guess how many arguments you get when you do it right? Zippo. Okay, so do you understand? So now we've got gifting makes all attorneys wrong because there's a situation where you can show that either giving the power to gift or not giving the power to gift is wrong. We got updates are wrong. Almost every power of attorney you look at is wrong when it comes to updates because they don't get them regularly notarized.
Let me, can I jump?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, let me jump in there with the updates a little bit. We all know, and instinctively everybody else knows, that banking and brokerages have changed a lot over the last few years, several years. So just as an example of that, you know, years ago probably you couldn't pay all your bills online. Now you can. There was a time when you couldn't trade stocks and mutual funds with the click of a button from home, but now you can. So these institutions, these banks and these brokerages, they've changed, they've allowed a lot, they've tried to become more convenient, but with that have come some privacy and security concerns with accounts. You're a lot more vulnerable. And because of that, these institutions have instituted a lot of rule changes that have affected the way they operate. And really what they've done is they've limited access to these accounts in the name of security. And what that means to your clients is that you know, 99% of the time a power of attorney is going to be used to take money out of the bank, not put money in. And when you think about it, does the bank have liability if they're going to be giving the money to somebody who's not the account holder? Because the person who has the power of attorney isn't going to be the account holder. So if the bank's going to hand over the funds to somebody who's not the owner of the account, they do have some liability there. And so they've done some things to limit that liability. One of the things they've done is they've said, you know what, powers of attorney aren't on file anywhere, and all you have to do to change one is basically just get it renotarized and see an attorney, and it takes about 15 minutes. So if this thing isn't new, we don't know. We have no way of knowing that there aren't other copies or more current copies or floating around out there. We have a lot of liability. So to limit that liability, like Mike said, at the minimum they'll say if it's not at least within 3 years, we're not going to honor it. A lot of banks have said now, well, 3 years, how about 2? And they're backing it down to 2, to 1, to limit their liability. Now, does that mean if you went to the bank and you had an old power of attorney that they would reject it? Yeah, that's what it means. They'll reject it. And if you want them to honor it, you've got to go through a whole process of going to court, being declared guardian, having to report on your activities every 6 months. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, because Jeff's pointing out, if they do not give out money, what's their penalty? Nothing. You'll sue them, and then eventually they'll have to give you the money. Like as Jeff said, after a lot of legal bills, after a lot of time in courts, etc., they'll finally have to release the money. But they're not going to get hit with a penalty for not releasing it. But if they release it when they shouldn't have released it, what's going to happen, Jeff?
Oh, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. They have a lot of liability. So for them, it's a no-brainer. If it's less than 2 years old or less than 3 years old, just end of discussion. We don't accept it. If you want us to accept it, you're going to have to go to court and come back with the court order. Because there's no penalty. It doesn't hurt us. If you come back with the court order, well, then the liability's on the court and on you. But without the court order, when we have all the liability, no way, no how, we don't give money out.
Yeah, there's no advantage to them to give the money out. They're losing the money, they're losing the fees, and they take on a heap load of liability. So why would they want to give it out? So they're going to come up with any reason possible not to give that out. So if that thing isn't up to date, and we said, like Jeff said, it used to be 3 years, then it's 2 years, and I've even seen institutions lately that's been 3 months because they have no penalty for holding the money. They get to continue to make money on your money when they hold the money. And there is no penalty for them saying that power of attorney is not good enough. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Jeff. And Jeff brought up the institution, so let's talk about that. You probably don't realize this, but government agencies, including the Social Security Office, Veterans Administration, and the IRS, guess what? Will they honor your power of attorney? Will they honor your power of attorney, guys? This is a huge eye-opener for me. Bill says no, you're right, no. You must either use the agency's special form or the durable power of attorney must have the special wording required by each agency's particular form. And let me ask you a question, knowing the government. Do you think all 3 of these agencies, the Social Security Office, the VA, and the IRS, all use the same wording? Do you think they do? Different forms, but also what? Different wording. Now, let me ask you, of all the powers of attorney you've looked at, how many of them had the wording for each of these agencies? I'll tell you what, Jeff, you've looked at a gazillion of them. How many of the power of attorneys you looked at had each of these Social Security, VA, and IRS's wording on their durable power of attorney, saying that this durable power of attorney works with the Social Security Office, works with the Veterans Administration, works with the IRS because it has the special wording on there. You've worked,
Yeah,
you've been looking at these things for 10 years now.
Yeah, I've never seen one that had that language in it.
So, guys, do you think there's a situation where the agent was going to have to do something with the Social Security Office or with the VA if they're a veteran or with the IRS? Do you see why every power of attorney is wrong? You can look the person straight in the eye and tell them that their power of attorney is absolutely 100%, no doubt whatsoever, wrong. Do you get that? We've now covered 3 different things, and we've already found each one of these 3 different things. You could use one of them and say, durable power of attorneys are wrong. Now we've got 3 reasons that would affect all 100% of powers of attorney. Does that make sense? Banks and financial institutions, same types of problems. And Jeff kind of went into this, which is that even if your institution's form allows for a limited and then here's a problem people haven't thought about. Let's say your institution form allows for a limited power of attorney, such as stock trading. Your state may require 2 signatures. And guess when you find out that's a problem? When are you going to find out that, we needed 2 signatures and only got 1, guys? When it's too late. And as Jeff said, when you find out that your power of attorney isn't doing what it's supposed to too late, how do you remedy that, Jeff?
You have to go to court. And you're looking at least 6 months to a year, and you have to be appointed guardian, and it's expensive. Like I said, 6 months to a year where your power of attorney doesn't work. And it isn't guaranteed that it's going to be resolved in your favor.
Yeah, spend thousands of right. And as Jeff said, you have to be appointed guardian. Guys, your job as a guardian is a hell of a lot different than your job as an agent for a power of attorney. As a guardian, you need to go back to court, and you need to validate every single thing that you're doing. You need to keep records of every single thing you're doing. You need to show them that every single thing that you did was appropriate. As an agent, you don't need to do that. As an agent, you're innocent until proven guilty. As a guardian, you're guilty until proven innocent. You need to prove everything that you're doing. So you've just signed yourself up for a horrible job. It's bad enough to be an agent for a power of attorney. Being a guardian, is horrid. Okay? Do these power of attorneys, and if they have these limited power of attorneys, they may erode your personal, the durable power of attorney that you put in place. So that it may actually undermine your durable power of attorney. And then beneficiaries, again, this is an eye-opener for me. If you have a POD or TOD or in trust on a form, on an account, guess what? Your durable power of attorney does not allow you to change these things. So these things are written in stone. If your durable power of attorney does not actually have language that say that you're allowed to change those things, then it will not allow you to change those things. Do you get that? You have to have the language in there. And again, Jeff, you've looked over the last decade, you've probably looked at thousands of powers of attorneys. How many of them have you seen have language in there to say that they could change the titling from POD, TOD, or in trust for?
No, I've not seen any that say you can change the titling, period.
So now we've got 4 reasons that 100% of powers of attorney are wrong. Any of them by themselves, but when you ask this title jointly, joint rights survivors cannot be altered or amended. Accounts cannot be altered or amended if they're owned with other people unless there's specific language that says so. You get that? Different states. So if they live in a different state, they also need a new power of attorney. And declaration of status, and Jeff was talking about this earlier. You should have that if this is your first durable power of attorney, you should actually declare it as your first durable power of attorney. Why should you declare this as your first durable power of attorney, guys? Let's see if you get this. Why should you declare this as your first durable power of attorney? What is that saying? What's that saying, guys? Starting point? Yeah, but what's it saying? Why does that validate a power of attorney? No, that's right, Dale. No preceding powers of attorney. No other ones out there, Bill. You're exactly right. So if it's your first durable power of attorney, you should declare it. If it's not your first durable power of attorney, what should you do? You should declare, there should be a declaration stating in your power of attorney that all other powers of attorney are now what? Voided. That this is the only one that works. And as Jeff was pointing out earlier, you should get that to a notary and get that renotarized. How often, guys? At least yearly. At least yearly. So how many powers of attorney have you seen these kind of things in, Jeff?
I've not seen any of it.
So there you go. Now are we at 5 or 4 or 5 for things that are wrong? And then do you have an exoneration? What I mean by this is, as Jeff said, a lot of institutions are not honoring powers of attorney because there's nothing but bad things that can happen to them by honoring them. Because if they're wrong, they're going to get sued. If they honor power of attorney that they shouldn't have, they're going to get sued. And even if they honor it, the best that can happen is they're going to lose assets and lose fees. So they got a choice of honoring it, losing assets, losing fees, and possibility of getting sued. So they are very skittish about honoring this, but this exoneration is talking about not about institutions, but about the actual agent. Because guess what's happening over and over and over around the country now? Guess who's getting sued, guys? Want to take a guess on who's getting sued? The agent, Casey. You're right, the agents. Because then, do all the siblings always think that the child that was chosen to be the agent is doing the right thing? No. So guess what people are finding? Oh, it's very easy to do nowadays. Even sue their siblings. So you should have an exoneration. So agents of durable power of attorneys are now being sued regularly. Do you have an exoneration provision? Do you actually have an exoneration saying that I am in writing that that agent cannot be sued, cannot be held accountable for anything they do wrong? So Jeff, how many of those have you seen?
Yeah, I've not seen a single one.
Guys, if you're an agent, if you're appointed agent for your mom and dad and you've got brothers and sisters, would you like something like this in your durable power of attorney? I know I would. And I love my brothers. But you know what? Everybody loves everybody until what? There's a problem. And you guys have been in this business long enough to see families disintegrate over a tiny little problem. So does it have an exoneration? And by the way, guess who else is being dragged into these lawsuits? Advisors are being dragged into these lawsuits. So it pays to have on record to get their durable power of attorney reviewed. Guys, if you say they need to get the durable power of attorney reviewed, and you say that on a regular basis, what is that proving to anybody who tries to sue you, any attorney that tries to drag you in? Because first of all, as an advisor, can we take care of somebody's power of attorney? No, unless you're an attorney, you can't do a power of attorney. So when we say get their durable power of attorney reviewed, we're saying, washing our hands of it, saying we did our own, we did what we were supposed to, which is we saw there's problems in this power of attorney, and we tried to go send them back to their own attorney. We can now wash our hands of the situation. So we went through 5 or 6 reasons that any single one of those reasons by itself would virtually negate any power of attorney out there. So if you add all those 5 together, what can we say? Can you guys now look at every single client in the eye and tell them that their power of attorney needs to be redone? That their power of attorney is not working the way they thought it was working? Is there anybody on the call that feels that they can't look any client in the eye without even looking at their power of attorney and tell them that their power of attorney is absolutely wrong? But Jeff, when I say without even looking at their power of attorney, can they go to a second meeting without looking at the power of attorney?
No. You've got to have that power of attorney. No one would. You're not going to be able to convince anybody that their power of attorney might have problems without even glancing at it or looking at it. You have to have it.
And how many times in the past 10 years, Jeff, has somebody said, well, I didn't send you, because Jeff helps you do the first disclosure meeting. He helps you prepare that. So how many times have you heard somebody say, well, you said, well, where's the power of attorney? I don't see it. And they say, well, we didn't need it because the client told me it was all in order.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. And the general rule of thumb is, I always tell people, whether it's titling forms or account statements or whatever it is, it's wrong unless they can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's right. And when you use that highest standard, can anybody prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's right? No. Then you have to have it. Just because they got it done by the best attorney in town doesn't mean that it's right.
Guys, have we proven that even if they have it done by the best attorney in town, that they're wrong? I mean, have we proven that today? Yes, we've proven that. So, but you can't tell them that unless they think you've looked at their power of attorney. If you've looked at their power of attorney, then they're going to assume that you looked at it and you found something wrong. What they don't realize is we don't even have to look at them when we know it's wrong, but they're not going to believe that unless you at least look at it. So you need to have that. And as Jeff said, in order to do a disclosure meeting, we ask for all these documents, so how many do they have to give you? All of them. If they don't give you all the documents, then there's no way for them to believe any of the things that you find as you go through the disclosure process. Does that make sense? Good. So I just wanted to make it clear that the power of attorney is a pivotal part of the process, because first of all, it's the road in to anybody who says they don't want to go through the whole process. This is your way to prove to them that they need to go through the whole process, because the first thing you look at, you already find 5 things that are wrong with it. First thing you look at, you already found 5 things that are wrong with it. Of course we need to look at everything else, because if in 5 minutes I found this one thing wrong, what could I find if I spent a couple hours looking? And what kind of a pickle would you be in if you found out that this is wrong? So it's your road into everything. So I just want to put to bed, is there anybody on the call now that doesn't realize that every power of attorney you run across is wrong? Because once you understand that, it's your ticket in to taking them through the 5Q process, which gets them to leave their current advisor. Again, do we ever say a bad word about their advisor? No. We just ask them questions so they come to their own conclusions. But it's the ticket to getting clients, not showing them how you can give them something better, because that doesn't get clients. And then they take your idea and take it back to their guy. The only way to get new clients is to remove their guy. Does that make sense? And this is your first ticket in. So that's what I want to cover. Any questions on this or any questions on anything else before I let you go? Is the powers of attorney for IRS, VA, Social Security available online? Or should we suggest the client go back? Always, Glenn, always suggest that they what? Go back to their attorney. So that's a great question. Can we give them can we just tell them that they're online? We never want to get into the situation where we appear to be practicing law. So that's a great question, Glenn. We want to send them back to their current attorney. Build contracting for trip. Oh, if you're doing the trip and you haven't contracted with your marketer for the life insurance companies, you'll need to contact them, and then they'll get you all contracted up. Anything else? Good questions, guys. Awesome. So was this? We get this question all the time, don't we, Jeff? How do you know the power of attorneys are wrong? So is there any tiny shadow of a doubt now why all powers of attorneys are wrong, guys? That's if we've accomplished that, this should help you on every single meeting going forward. That you have that confidence, knowing that you're coming to the table with something they really, really need, because their situation can be horrible if they don't have a power of attorney that's working. Super. Well, then, congrats for working on President's Day. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.